They say history is written by the victors. No more is this true than with the Byzantine Empire. Empire that lost its people, its riches, its land, and even its own name to the books of history. Um, uh, the Byzantine Empire, in reality, was actually called the Eastern Roman Empire, something confirmed by both its people and its enemies. It'd be sort of like as if I was living here today, telling everyone my name was Austin, and I died, and on my gravestone they wrote Austin. Then 100 years later, they came back and changed it to a different name because they didn't want to be mixed up with someone else that was cooler than me. So, um, according to ancients.eu, the, because of this misnomer of the Byzantine Empire, historians don't exactly agree when the Byzantine Empire really started. There are four options here: when the empire divided into the east and west, when the Western Roman Empire fell, when Justinian reconquered his reconquest, and when the Heraclius lost large swaths of its territory to the Islamic conquest. Um, so, because of all this, I think you should really call the Byzantines the Eastern Romans. Call them something that they actually wanted to be called. And I'm going to give you three arguments today of why they should be called the Eastern Romans. I'll give you their counter arguments and refute them. So the first argument is the historical argument for why the Byzantines were Romans, the geographical argument for why the Byzantines are Romans, and the what it means to be Roman itself. So, on to that point, the term Byzantine comes from Mr. Wolf here on the left, who first came to the term nearly 200 years after the Byzantine Empire itself was finally conquered and in the ground. This wasn't exactly popularized until Montague on the right was using it in the 18th century. This was according to Byzantine.gr. So that's the background behind these, and both these were to distinguish the Christian kingdom of the quote unquote Greeks against the classical pagan Roman Empire. So now we're going to go with the historic arguments for Byzantium being really the Romans. So the first argument they always give is that the Byzantines ceased being Romans when the Western Roman Empire fell, or they ceased being Romans when the Romans transitioned from paganism to Christianity. This is both refuted by the fact that Constantine was the main person who brought Christianity to the empire, and he himself was a Roman through and through and ruled both east and west. Belisarius was the general, Justinian is the emperor. He was a Roman who was born only years after the fall of the Western Roman Empire and did all he could in his power to restore the full Roman Empire. And Heraclius, during his time, they still spoke Latin in the military, and he did military reforms to reform everything to be one standard language of Greek, thus refuting the idea that these guys were not Romans. Then, that was the historical argument. Now we're going to go on to the geographical argument. So, of course, the geographical argument is how can you be Roman if you don't hold the city of Rome itself? Well, this is refuted by the fact that the Western Roman Empire did not even have Rome as its capital. In fact, it had Midlinium as its capital. And even on top of that, the Eastern Roman Empire underneath Justinian did reconquer Rome and hold on to it for another 200 years. So that is refuting the geographical arguments against the Byzantines being Romans. Lastly, you get to talk about what it means to be Rome itself. So, what it means to be Roman itself. So, the idea of the Western Roman Empire falling, the classical Western Roman Empire falling, the end of quote unquote civilization, is what a lot of people talk about when the Byzantines are something else. They were an Eastern civilization separate from the fall of the Western civilization, when that isn't really the case. As the Western Roman Empire fell, they still believed in the idea of the Roman Empire in the east of the Byzantine Empire. The idea of Rome itself evolved into the Rome, the one true civilization, the one true empire underneath one emperor, underneath one holy god. that was the idea of Rome itself became an ideal. And the idea was copied by the Holy Roman Empire, as you can tell by the name, of it being a bunch of Germanic states trying to strip the title away from the East. Then, according to Livis.org, a bunch of Byzantine scholars and just a bunch of smart people left Constantinople and went to Italy during the sacking of Constantinople from the Turks to start up the Italian Renaissance that we know today. And that was the argument for why what it means to be Roman. So I went over the three arguments for why the Byzantines were Roman. We went over the historical arguments, went over the geographical arguments, we went over what it actually means to be Roman itself. And now, next time you hear someone talking about the Renaissance or talking about Constantinople being changed to Istanbul, remind them of the true Romans who lived during that era and helped build a European civilization during that era.